All right, so recently the state government gave a good news to many workers that because of the petrol subsidy removal, they don't have to come to work every day, and they just need to be in the office for 3 days. The same applies to students who will be in school, and they gave the reasons how they're intending to manage this. We heard there will be some sort of shifts, so the offices will be manned by people, and for the schools, secondary school learning hours were increased by 2 hours, and primary school by 1 hour. And they're going to do, I think, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then Thursday, Friday will be added to their weekends. I know pupils will love that. I wish it was in my time. But I have Benedict Ochago, who is a business analyst here, to talk about this, and we want to focus on the economic impact. First of all, what do you think about this idea by the government?
Well, it's a laudable idea, although I have a bit of criticism
About it.
Because if that is all what the Edo State government has to offer right now, it means it's too streamlined and myopic. But also, having said that, we need to also, that move has to be lauded. Because the problem that just happened is not a state problem. It is a federal problem that caught the states unaware. And I want to believe that this measure is just a kind of reactive measure that every Nigerian government make. We lack that ability or foresight for proactive measures. We just react. We don't really plan sometimes. But you cannot blame Edo State solely for this. But the area where I criticize them is that when you are saying the workers, the state government workers, that is a small fraction of the population of Edo State. That's just a very, very small fraction. In 2006 census, Edo State was a little bit above 3 million in population. Then it was projected that by 2022 it will be 8 million, although the statistics is showing now that it's 4.7 million, just above. So now, when you take the fraction of the state workers away from 4-point-something million, it's got just a little fraction.
Yeah.
Then what happens to the rest of the people? Are they not part of the state? Are they not? Didn't they work to ensure that this government come to play? And even if they don't they deserve a remuneration from the government at downtime like this? And so I expected the government to come out with a policy that is all-encompassing, that we reach out to both those in the private sector, to those in the that are doing small and medium scale enterprises and all of that captured. And one of those things, is maybe creating more intercity transport, just like what we have now that is almost dying, maybe reviving it. But also, on a second thought, I decided to pap low in my mental criticism of the government, because also this happened suddenly. I want to believe that the government is putting measures in place that in the nearest future there will be something like that, because when there are intercity transports and all of that, it will benefit all as sundry, and then you will not maybe bother yourself so much about reducing the number of days, because even reducing the number of days, I'm not really seeing any way it can help even the households of the civil servant. The number of days does not mean that more money will be created when they are home and all of that. So I expected that the state government will do something beyond what they have just done.
Okay, now the part where you talked about the buses, it's something everyone has been suggesting, but I don't see that happening. Reason being that government gets a lot of taxes and revenues from these other bus drivers, the yellow and red buses. So if they bring their buses, it even means more pressure on government, because the prices will be reduced and they're still going to pay the workers. We know they are going to be very strategic about it,
part of the government,
which is usually our government.
Government. In democracy, what your drive should be about the people, because it's the people that sent you there. And so it's not about accruing more revenue money to the government at the expense of the people. That will no longer be democracy. And so when you are saying this is downtime, even for the commercial bus driver, it's a downtime for them. They buy higher price. So what we are trying to say is that is an ideology and a system, create a system that will be able to carry everybody along if we say we are practicing democracy.
Okay, let's talk about productivity of the workers. Before I even talk about the students, I had talked with an educator, and she was frowning about it, that it's not a smart arrangement. You don't tell pupils students are still being more mature, but you don't tell pupils in primary school to come to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then they have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. By the time they come the next Monday, it's almost as if they're starting afresh. But let's leave the school aside. Do you think this is going to affect productivity of workers? They said it won't affect the productivity. But do you think it's going to affect it? Is it positively or negatively?
Definitely, when you shorten the number of days, because we are not technological driven, although we pretend to be, but we are actually not. And so when you reduce the number of days, what you experience that productivity will drop. Because a lot of the work, I go to government parastatal, to my greatest amazement, you see them, they are still using hardback notes to do the analysis, to do their entries and all of that in 21st century. And so when he or she goes home for the rest 2 days, then what happens is, because your hardback notebook does not have an ability, the internet ability to transact and to transmit and connect to the bosses, to the other sector of the economy. So what happens is that everything shuts down. Nobody should pretend about it. There's nothing the spokesperson for the government will come and tell us. We are not driven by sufficient technology that will be able to cater for that, especially in the on the front of the government parastatal. And so a lot will suffer economically. That is just the truth. A lot will suffer economically. And sometimes you begin to wonder the mental capability and the reach of the policymakers for the government in terms of driving policies that will bring productivity to government. Because if you are saying that, okay, we have to shorten the days, this is downtime economically for all sectors of the state. You cannot pretend about that. Since after the COVID-19, all states have been struggling. And also considering the fact that a lot of our states are mentally lazy and economically lazy. They just look for tasks to collect. That's the only source of income. But now, you have to increase revenue. And with due respect to the governor of the state, he has been doing a lot. His economic projection in terms of when his insight about federal policies has always been on point in terms of financial policies and all of that. And so you expect that the state governed by a man like that has such prowess economically, a state government will be able to come up with a better policy like this. But you cannot blame it solely on the governor alone. There are people working with him that needs to actually do more, because this is not what you will expect from a system that spent a lot of money to be able to gather personnel together and be able to create policies.
Interesting. Now, the biggest problem I think workers are even facing now or complaining about, they're glad about the shortened time. It reduces the amount of fuel they consume for those who have their own vehicles, and reduces the amount of transportation T-fares they pay to buses for those who don't. But our purchasing power, does it increase it? How does it impact? Because prices of things are still going to remain the same. Salaries, I don't think there's any plan for an increase. So how is reducing work days going to affect our purchasing power? Now,
there is a statement from the state government that I don't know whether that has been implemented, that the minimum wage has been
now 40,000. Yes, I think they've done that since last year.
All right. Now, if you are made minimum wage 40,000 naira, there is something that happens in Nigeria economically since the Odoje revolution of 1977. And that has actually been a kind of curse to Nigeria economic system. Because after 1977, when they were increment, the boom of oil and all of that, so the market women who control the force of inflation in Nigeria, unfortunately, increase the prices of goods and all of that, and even those that render services as well. So that has actually been a trend since 1977, that anytime government makes a statement of a little increment, the market women just also do their own increment. And so there is no significant improvement in the purchasing power of those that work
prices
for
are still not regulated.
Because at the end of everything, those that regulate the purchasing power, which is those that are in the market, will do the increase. And unfortunately, unfortunately, the government has not really created a robust system to control prices of goods and services. So you leave it in the hands of those market women and the market men to control the force of market purchasing power, which is a very, very dangerous thing for a system. But that is where we have found ourselves. And so I've not seen any improvement, because you see buy bag of rice for 38,000, which is 2,000 away from 40,000, and all of that.
That depends on the bag you're buying. If you're buying rice like wow now, I heard it's 42,000.
All right, which means you have to take 2,000 and that to your minimum wage to buy a bag of rice. You have not bought other things and all of that. And so you discover that there is no improvement. So what you need to do is, if you are saying they should come to work, even with the 3 days they have to come, you have to provide intra-city, because even the increment is not significant, and all of that. So in order to be able to carry everybody.
I have 3 questions, and we need to do this as quickly as possible. How would this affect our competitiveness in the global markets?
It will definitely drop, because you would expect this time around that there will be efficiency. The reason why it will drop is not because the people are staying at home for the rest of the 2 days. No, but because Nigeria generally has failed to meet up or to match up with global best practices in terms of technologically driven economy. We are not, and also you must give kudos to Edo State government, because a whole lot is going on in Edo job at the ICT centers, and a lot of people are not really taking. One thing I've discovered, that a lot of the young folks are not taking advantage of what is happening there. I have had the opportunity to interact with what happened. A lot is really happening there, and the government is quite intentional in terms of building capacity for the younger generation. But a lot of people are not taking advantage of it, and you see complaints everywhere. People are complaining because they are not aware. They are not even aware that there are about 2 billion naira set aside for people that are doing small scale business. You can access it if you are qualified. You can have it without knowing anybody. People are not aware, and I think the information agencies should also bring this into.
They don't want you to be aware,
so that people will be aware, so that people will hear. And if the people are qualified, they should access it. And the trainings that are going on in a Edo hub and all of that, there should be more publicity, that people should access the trainings, and because a lot of trainings are going on, and people are learning a whole lot. And so when you marry all of those things together, I'm seeing the productivity of the state dropping beyond, and that will not really be a blessing at a time such as this, that we are generally all over the country. There's economic meltdown. Our economy, our foreign reserve, even the state reserve, and all of that. So this time around, it will not really be a blessing for a state of about 225 billion GDP. It's not really a good thing, because you expect that those states, which is Benin City, is the fourth largest city in the whole of the country. You expect that their GDP will be more than that by now. So we need to look closely to our common patrimony, and what we can do to increase our productivity, so that vis-a-vis, so that also it will also reflect. Because sometimes the problem we have is that we increase all of this, we measure a lot of money increment, but it does not reflect in the lives of the citizens. So we need to also increase it, so that in the way that it will reflect in the general life of the citizens, and that's how they will be able to do.
And the last question I do have, talking about increment and productivity, I know you've talked a whole lot about tech, but do you think there's need for employment of more people at this time, just to fill in the vacuum?
Yeah, sure. In this year, they've been implemented the Edo State Civil Service Commission. I don't know how many people are aware. That's another thing. Awareness is the problem. People are not aware. They don't really do a lot to make the people aware. And sometimes you wonder. Sometimes what you know is, sometimes you don't hear that employment has been done. How? What was the process? Who was aware and all of that? Employment had been done according to a record in the Edo State Civil Service Commission this year, and you expect that. I don't know whether they've been enlisted to start, or they've been offered their letter of employment and all of that. But also, at a time like this, if you are saying they should also increase the workforce, where is the money to pay? If you are going to increase the workforce, then you should also allow the people work and pay them that money, so that they will be able to have capacity to come for work for the rest of the days. If you increase their salary to that extent, then it will also be a good thing. But I'm not saying that increasing the workforce is not important, because there are a lot of unemployed youth, young people out there. Increasing it is important. But if increasing it is what you want to do to be able to cover up for the shortened days of the week, then it is not a smart move. What you need to do is that those people that are already in the system increase their capacity, increase their money so that they will be able to run across the week and be able to also have enough money to take care of themselves.
Okay, I want to say thank you, Ben, for being with us on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
Of course, it's still Business Rendezvous. We focus on everything economy and everything. I mean everything. We're all happy about the reduced work days. Even right here in ITV, we're enjoying it. Not necessarily everybody. I mean, there are some duties that are essential. There's nothing you can do about it. And so even if there's a public holiday, you will work. But there are still people here that are enjoying their 3 days work day inside the station. And I think all private sector should begin to analyze, have your board meetings, how you can let these workers have some time off and yet increase your productivity if possible. When there was COVID issue in the world, people went home, businesses shut down, but as much as people were losing money, a lot more people made money from that because they embraced other methods of raising funds. And there are governments that helped their citizens by giving them relief materials. Our own here was ordered. We had to start breaking warehouses to get them in the long run, but we're going to get better as we talk more about things like this. I'm Daisy Leo Sikidi.